Everyone, welcome to another Random Talk Sunday, and today I'm going to be taking a personal fan request and discussing my thoughts on the 2016 presidential election that is going to be happening within this year. So in case you're not familiar, if you're not part of the United States, this is something that happens over the course of um, at least, again, you have the 4 year and then you have the 8 year. Um, and usually that's kind of what really sets the at least tone as far as politics is concerned within the United States. The president is really the sort of head figure of our country, so he/she, even though there has never been a she, uh, has a really sort of I guess you could say probably very important job. Some people may or may not say as to how much the president is really capable of doing, considering the fact that again there's a lot of different rules that we have within the United States as far as the whole election process and the way in which a president can make rules and whatnot. But it is a very important part of our sort of, I guess you could really say, uh, government. It really determines the sort of tone and the shift in policies, um, and largely we separate this into two parties within the United States: the Democrats and the Republicans. So you have the Democratic election, excuse me, where they choose their party figurehead, and then you have the Republican election where they choose their party figurehead, and those two duke it out for the top title of president. Um, and I think that parties really off the bat are a bad idea, only because I think it allows people to be put into like kind of like an echo chamber, and they only think within that mindset. And when there's something that comes out that's factual and kind of goes against the ideology, then it causes some kind of, I think, disruption, unfortunately. Um, and they'll each side will try to twist the facts into however they want to bend it, so that it benefits them and the party, and not so much really trying to be forefront and be really in the best interest of the American people. And I think that's really the sort of the game of politics a lot of the time, is who has the who has the knowledge and who has the power and who has the capabilities and the leadership and all that. Um, but this particular election is very important. I mean, it probably is one of the most important, and it could be a huge game changer. I mean, this election, you've got all of these Republicans, and I mean, they need to get rid of some. I'm sorry, but they need to get rid of at least half of them. There are too many Republicans still running for president. If they cut it down to four, that would be reasonable, because then people could actually choose among those four and have a real in-depth understanding of, okay, which one do we want? But they've got way too many people as it is of now still in the race, and I think a lot more of them need to really consider dropping out and saying themselves, look, I have this much of a percentage, there's just no way I'm going to win. Because it's clearly kind of, I think, set as far as who the top ones are. So I don't understand why there's still a good chunk of them still trying. Um, and then you got the Democratic side where you've only really got two people. I mean, yeah, you got a third guy, but he's probably not going to get much of the vote, unfortunately. And he is, and these other two Democrats, it's kind of like, okay, those two are just duking it out for the top spot. And there's not a huge amount of variety, and there's not a huge amount of even coverage among the Democratic debates. So I almost want to say I almost want to say that it's kind of like there's not a huge amount that they have to offer, at least as alternatives. And when you look at the Republicans, there's just way too many. So yeah, I think it's definitely it's a very uneven kilter as far as this particular election cycle is concerned. And I honestly, to be honest, I have no idea who to vote for. I mean, I personally don't care for really any of the Democrats. I think they don't really have a huge amount to offer to the table. And at the same time, I don't think the Republicans are really any better. So it's really hard for me to say. I mean, I think it would be interesting to, I just want to see kind of how the primary plays out because, and even again, within, when it comes eventually to my state in California, it really doesn't matter. Like our votes don't really count for anything because the elections are primarily decided within the other states. Does California hold a significant amount of electoral votes? Yes, it does. And in case you don't know, basically electoral votes decide our election. It's not really the people of the United States that decide our election, it's the electoral votes. And these are just people, from what I could tell, that are just sort of selected to say, yeah, okay, this guy will be president. Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll vote for him or whatever. Or we'll support this guy or whatever. Usually the electoral votes always go with the people, but just the fact that it's there, I just think is ridiculous. I don't think we need them. It's just let the people decide. Let the majority win. Like I don't understand why we need these electoral people to come in and decide for us. I don't know. I guess it's the idea that we're not as smart as a public to decide who should be president. But still, I don't think having a little chunk of people deciding the majority is a good thing. Especially if they probably have other interests in mind. Um, uh, uh, so I honestly don't know. I mean, I would just have to see how the primaries really play out because really the primary again is where the Republicans pick their one person and then the Democrats pick their one person. And again, usually the primary doesn't even matter within my state, and usually usually there's just these particular states that the candidates really focus their energy on because they want their votes. Um, and there's not a huge amount of emphasis on a lot of the other states, so they really want to grasp as much of these states as they can and say, okay, these are the states that are going to vote for me, and this is going to determine the winner, of the primary. So, and again, the way the primaries work, though, too, is if you're a registered Republican, you vote for your team of the Republican candidates, and if you're a Democrat, then you vote for a Democrat, which I think is stupid. I think people right away in the primary should decide who they want to vote for and not be contingent on a party. I just think that's just stupid. Uh, and so that's why I registered myself as an independent because I don't like the parties. I think that it's a really dumb idea. And I think George Washington even said the parties were a bad idea. And I think he was right. I think that that was just a really dumb move because it puts people in one camp, puts one people in the other camp, and then they duke out over power and they get nothing accomplished. So, and facts don't reign supreme. Um, twisting the facts reigns supreme. But again, I really just want to see that because I can't make up my mind. There's just too many people. There's too many people on one side and not enough people on the other. So already I'm just kind of like there's just too many people. You got to narrow it down. Just give me 4 candidates on one end, and for the love of God, Democrats, please put in somebody else to compete. Like you need more competition in there, and Republicans need less competition. So yeah, I think that's something that um, should be explored. But again, it's pretty much decided already, though. Um, I mean, but I really can't say. I would honestly, I would just need the primaries to really happen in order to really determine who I'm really voting for. Um, because again, the nomination is almost everything. Because then you're narrowed down now. It's like you got your 2 choices here. You got this guy over here and this guy or gal over there or wherever. You don't. It's very narrowed down. which I think does make sense that obviously we want to have, the two top candidates be the sort of, you know, deciding factor. Um, but again, I think that obviously there should be a little bit more of a, you know, separation of power. I mean, I think the fact that the president already gets to really be in charge of the executive branch, like one person just being kind of in charge, um, it kind of, I think deters part of our political process. Um, See, I like the way in which Switzerland's government operates actually a lot more than the United States, because they have actually multiple presidents, and not every president is given only a certain amount of authority. So, one minute you're the president of, let's say, the military, and you have a president for each thing, and they don't have that power throughout their entire term. Like, it switches. So their responsibility changes over time. It's not like they're in charge of one, they're not in charge of the whole entirety of the thing. And I think that works a whole lot better than having someone that can just flip on a dime, decide, okay, this is the direction we're going, and I don't really need anyone to really bounce off of, because I'm the ultimate decider, so to speak. Um, and I hold all the power and the authority and the leadership and whatnot. Uh, and I think, um, uh, honestly, the way in which a lot of these elections work, at least within the United States, is that at the end of the day, one person is not going to change the way in which the United States operates. You know, there is a lot of complexity to the whole system that we set up as far as government. And to say that one person can come in and change everything, and again, that's what every candidate promises to everybody. I will come in and I will change everything and it'll all be good and we will all be so prosperous and blah, blah, blah. They try to sell everybody something. They try to sell a certain point. But the thing is that one person, I'm sorry, and it's not that I don't think that, presidents don't have capabilities and, can't be intelligent people. It's just that, one person is not capable of changing this whole system. Not one person can come in and just change the economy or change this and X and that and, you know, deregulate this or regulate that, or, it's just not possible. That's just not how things work. Because, again, there's a lot of checks and balances. Um, but again, there's always executive orders too, where the president can just sign something into law without Congress. So again, there's just a lot of different things that go into this. So I think just to say, this guy's going to change the world, he's going to change everything, I mean, I'm going to make this great, or I'm going to do whatever, I mean, just to sell yourself as the sole fixer of the country, which is really what the president, at least primarily modern day presidents, have tried to really do. They've really tried to be that, I'm going to be the fixer, or I'm going to be the person that changes things, I'm going to be the person that makes things better, blah 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 blah. And the way in which everything is set up, it's just one person can't do that. You just can't do that. You've got to have multiple changes within the whole system within itself, and the whole leadership within the system, in order to really produce any real change. And that has to go through Congress, and that has to go through the judicial system too. It's not just the executive, it's not just the president. A lot of other things need to be altered and made different in order for there to actually be real progress, or things to become better, or improve upon themselves. I honestly think that, it's just not one person is capable of really just coming in and doing something. Um, and I think a lot of it just has to do with, if we just get back to sort of uh, I think the problem is not the system, it's the problem is who's in charge of the system. That's really the big thing. And the president is one person that's in charge, but there's also a lot of other people that are in charge. You've got people in Congress who are in charge. You've got people in the judicial branch that also have a certain amount of authority too. I mean, it's not just one person. There's a lot of people, and I think that's what a lot of people tend to miss about our whole system is that there's a lot of components to it. It's not just the president. The president has a certain amount of authority, but again, there's a lot of other people who do have certain capabilities as well, and do have a certain amount of leadership, and do have a certain amount of levels of decision making. So again, I think just the idea that one person just can come in and alter all this stuff, it's just a little bit far stretched, especially when you see how much has come and sort of gone. The way I see it, it's kind of a little bit what like George Carlin said. It's just garbage in, garbage out. I mean, it's it's not really designed to be a system to where we have actual, real, uh, authentic leadership anymore. There's a lot of interests. There's a lot of there's just a lot of things that goes into this stuff. It's everybody likes to play it out like it's so simple. Oh, it's so simple if we just elected this guy. It's like no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I mean, yeah, we do have a lot of debt. We do have a lot of problems. Yes, a lot of that is really really present within this day and age. And again, that's why this particular election, I think, is at least this cycle is so important. But again, it's not going to be changed overnight by one particular person. This has to take years and years and years of new leadership coming in, new ideas being formed, new things happening. It's just not going to be solved overnight. And it's not going to take one person to fix things or alter things for the better. And, so it's very hard to say. I mean, I've never been that very political in the sense that, I'm for whatever works. I'm just for whatever's logical. I don't try to take too many sides when it comes to politics. Like, I don't get angry at this one particular person or another. I just kind of see the system for what it is, and I realize that there's just a certain amount of there's again, I think there's too much amount of emphasis on the presidency. Not to say that again, it's not important. Again, I think this is probably one of the most important election cycles that has come around recently. But at the same time, he's only one guy. There's other people that are involved in making decisions, and there are tons of other, entities within government that are, working and doing things obviously without, certain knowledge from others within the government too. So again, there's just a lot of problems and difficulties with the way in which it's all structured. And it's gonna take way more than one guy or one gal to come in and just be like, yeah, okay, let's just change however much we can whenever I want. It's it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, I mean, my personal thoughts as far as I almost want to just wait and see. See who gets the primaries, see who's resonating with the most people, and just kind of go from there. I almost kind of don't want to vote only because I think what we have is just it's just not that good. I just don't think it's that impressive what we've got. Out of all of the people on within the United States we could have picked, we picked these people, and I honestly don't think they're all that great. I don't think that there's nothing that impressive about any of the candidates. I think personally, within this sort of cycle, I mean, there's just nothing really there that just stands out to me at all. It's just the same. it's just the same old, same old. Um, and I mean, I almost I'm almost even discouraged of even voting for this election. I almost just want to kind of I would love I just love seeing the show because it's a fun show. It's kind of like what George Carlin said, um, when you're sort of going through life, or when you're born, or something to that effect. He said, you're given a ticket to the um, sort of, I guess he termed it as the crazy show, and if you're in America, you get a front row seat. And I just kind of want to observe and see what happens, and just kind of see what the public kind of ultimately decides, because I really don't feel like I have really a dog in anything, especially considering, once it hits California, it means nothing. Like, and usually we end up voting one way anyway, so it really, my vote does not count for jack. And it does, and it largely, primarily, it doesn't count for much within a lot of other states too. So it's a whole, I think it's way too, I mean, the fact that we give voting as a right, it's a very narrow right, considering the fact we only maybe at most get two options, and we don't get to really, and we maybe get to decide a senator or two senators, and we get to decide, um, within our district who should be our representative. But beyond that, uh, uh, it's just way too messed up, I think, for at least I think even outsiders to really understand. I mean, even for me, it's sometimes hard to comprehend. So I honestly kind of just want to watch. I'm just an observer now in these politics, because watching it just drives me insane. I just go like, really, these people, just can't watch these people. Uh, but I mean, it would be interesting to see, who wins. Maybe I'll vote for someone within the. I'm not going to vote in the primaries, obviously, but let's see who's the nominee, and let's watch the freak show. Or that's what he termed it, the freak show. Let's see what happens. Let's see how these characters just duke it out in front of each other, and let's see who has the most guts and whatnot, and who thinks they're the most presidential, and maybe, gosh darn, we'll see something maybe interesting happen. And I think it'll be interesting. It is definitely a very uh, crazy cycle this year. It's very. I think the world should watch. I mean, even if you do not live within the United States, watch, because it is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, our politics. Um, and also, I think the media is actually pretty, as far as their questions, sometimes they'll ask maybe decent questions within like a lot of the debating and stuff, and then other times they'll just ask really, really. It's like, why are you asking this question? Why? Why does this have to do with anything? Why? Why are you bothering and wasting our time? No, because, and they also think too is they ask so many questions that the debate is so long, like unbelievably long, and oh, 3 hours, man. 3 hours. Like, you got to cut it down. And I understand, the Republicans, they got way too many people up there. They need to narrow it down, because, people cannot decide. Even I can't. I'm just like, okay, what does this person now stand for? And why is he different than that one person? And how does any of this all make any sense? Is anything what these people saying actually true? You know, I I just get totally baffled by it. So I'm just like, okay, narrow it down. And I almost want to say I just want to wait till the primary really kicks in and gets done with, and then we get to decide, okay, who is the person of each party, and okay, alrighty, let's just decide that that way. But again, I almost think they should get rid of parties altogether. Um, I don't think they should have these kinds of interests, um, because I think a lot of that, because a lot of it is really based on money. I mean, who can ever get the most money is really going to be the nominee. I mean, that's usually how a lot of these things go down, because again, you get the most marketing, you get the most people, to be invested in your campaign and all that. So it's all a money factor too. So, it's kind of sad. I'd wish that these things would go to more productive stuff than just, let's do a campaign. But at the end of the day, we'll see. I mean, you almost have to see how these things play out. I mean, so I really honestly can't say with full certainty 100% who I would really support and who would I really vote for. I don't really care for anybody. I don't think anybody's really going to change anything because one person is, I don't think, capable of fixing certain problems that we have within our government because it's just way too complicated and requires multiple changes on multiple levels within the system itself in order for it to be really fixed. So, yeah, that's just my honest thoughts, though. I mean, I'm more than happy to hear what anybody else has to say or who you're going to vote for, or if you were in the United States, who would you vote for? Um, but I honestly don't really, I honestly don't know really who, I mean, it can change, these elections because one minute one guy's on top and then no more. So we really don't. I just don't think there's any certain level of certainty anymore as far as who is going to be elected or not. It'll just depend on who shows up to the voting booth. That's really all that it is. Um, and I mean, it would be nice to see though who gets nominated and who will eventually win this thing. I mean, because I think it's a very important, again, it's a very important election. It's probably one of the most important probably in my lifetime, I would say. Um, Only because it's a very it's we're kind of, I think, at a certain crossroads. And it could go one way, it could go the other, but it usually always is within these elections. One minute it goes to this route, another minute it goes this way, and the problems come always with it eventually. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I can understand. I have a certain level of agreement and understanding with some of the ideas that are put forth and what some of the candidates are saying. It's just that the overall way in which they present their ideas and into thinking that they can somehow be the one sole actor of change, I just think is a little bit. It's just selling a dream. It's just selling a, I'm gonna do this. It's just that's all it really is to me. And that's just my honest opinion. I mean, I really can't say who I'm gonna vote for, but all I can say is that it's very interesting. It's very engaging and fun to watch these people and to hear what they say and think that they can really change something. Um, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, I'm not saying that the president doesn't have any power, but at the same time, to act like he's like the sole emperor. It's like that's not how the United States works. We're not a dictatorship. So yeah, it's politics. It's just how it is. It's just the way it works. I would definitely set things up a little bit differently. I think some ideas within the Swiss system I actually like a little bit better than the United States. Again, like there's not one sole president. I think they also have a TUA law where they can't, outspend what the government takes in. So the government always has to keep a certain amount of money um, to where they don't go into the spiraling debt, which is technically what we're kind of facing now, which I think is very important. And I don't think a lot of the candidates are really addressing that extensively. They're kind of just they're kind of mentioning it, but they're not really going as much into it as probably some other ones. And I think there's just a lot of issues that we have. And, but I think the idea that one person is going to come in and, just pound away and make, whatever changes, I just think it's just asking for a dream. It's just asking for, a miracle almost, I think, to happen. I think that, who's in charge sort of, I think, needs to change. And that needs to happen on, again, a lot of different areas and not just a president. But I think that's really all I can say about this election. It's interesting, it's engaging, it's fun, but I'd love to watch the freak show of this because it's would hear what these people say is just it's sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's crazy, sometimes it's kind of, you know, odd, but it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to watch. And I kind of just want to observe because I almost, I'm kind of a little more of a cynic when it comes to this whole process. I'm kind of just, yeah, it's really not going to do anything, no matter who we end up electing. But that's just my honest opinion. But I'd be more than happy to hear what anybody else has to say. Again, I'm not really a political person. I don't say this person is a jerk or whatever. This person is, you know, is evil or blah blah blah. Um, I just think that you know, that there's just too many problems that happen when you have bad leadership, and I think a lot of that has happened through a lot of the over the years, you know, within government, and unfortunately, it has caused a lot of problems. And I think it's all it has existed in a lot of parts of at least American history. I don't think this is just something brand new, but again, I just think leadership overall needs to change to really get a sense of real genuineness and you know, willingness to, I guess, kind of look to the American people and whatnot. And but again, could be totally right or wrong. I don't know, but that's just my honest opinion. But I hope that answered extensively what the person was asking me to do about. I mean, I mean, it really is almost too early to tell because again, we haven't even had the primaries yet. But I think we got 4 solid Republicans that are probably going to be the 4, and then the other ones are going to drop. But again, you never know. And the thing is too is that, you know, there's just too many of them, and with the Democrats, there's just way too small of a selection. So, um, you know, that's probably a problem a lot on the Democrats end. But yeah, it's overall it's just it's an important election. Um, it's something that I don't think people pay attention to that often. And I think we should pay attention way more to politics. Like when you ask average people on the street, it seems like they don't really know a hint of what's really going on. And I think there is a lot of confusion out there because, you know, there's always a spin on a lot of these things and what's really true and what's really not true. What's really what's really going on is kind of difficult to quantify because there's all of these different things and information that's out there, and a lot of it contradicts itself. And there's a lot of, you know, name calling too with the politics and the facts and all that, and it's just ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, it would be nice. I mean, I wouldn't mind being president. I mean, it probably would be a stressful job, but I wouldn't mind doing it. But um, I know that as being one person, I wouldn't be able to satisfy everybody. So, but yeah, that's just my honest opinion, though. I think that's really all I can say. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you on the next video. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on this topic. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye.